Hello, and welcome to Life with Francie podcast, a place where you will find all types of conversation like mental health, self-love, self-care, trauma, hobbies, and more. With this podcast, I want to create a place where we support one another in business and personal life. Hope you enjoy this episode. Now, let's get the show started. On today's episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Trista. She is a master certified life coach, and she will help women go from unstuck and unfulfilled to feeling better about themselves and their life. So, I want to talk to her. I found her through Women in Podcasting, amazing community for podcast guests and podcast hosts to find each other and do great collaborations like this one. So, welcome, Trista. Tell us, what is life with you?
What is life with me? Well, I don't know. It's busy. It's fun. Yeah, I'm just helping women get unstuck and move forward with their lives and make their life the adventure that they really want. So every day is something new, and yeah, I'm just enjoying my time.
I love that. So, yeah, tell us, how does this mission started?
Oh, well, it was a couple of years ago, and I found life coaching for myself. I was in a long distance relationship. I also work as a humanitarian aid worker. So I've been working abroad for many years, and I was in a relationship. It was long distance, as I said, and I just needed a little bit of help. I was very frustrated at the time, happened to find life coaching, and it changed every area of my life. And so I became very passionate about it, wanted to learn more. And then COVID hit. So I landed up having a lot of time on my hands and decided to get certified as a life coach, just, to see where it would lead me. And I thought it would be useful for me in my life and in my day-to-day job. And I just fell in love with it and decided that I had to start my own business right away. I wanted to share this work with everybody. And so now here I am a couple of years later, working in my business and helping women around the world to change their lives.
I love that. So, yeah, how would you help somebody that is feeling stuck? Because I feel pretty stuck right now.
Okay. Well, I have a 4-pillar methodology that I use with my clients. And the first pillar is looking at the past. Now, it's not therapy. Therapy is very past based, but coaching is more future focused, right? But I do find that sometimes we are stuck in the past a little bit with old hurt, maybe regrets, disappointments, things that just we tend to continue to carry with us, that when we think about it, we still have an emotional charge. Also, we have a lot of limiting beliefs that we may have picked up in our childhood and adolescence and carried with us throughout adulthood. And so it's about just letting go some of that, examining it, deciding what we want to keep, what we want to let go, and really reframing the stories that we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we think, so that they do serve us and they empower us, right? We're no longer the victim in the story, but we are the heroine. And so these stories that we tell are powerful and help us. Then we look at day-to-day present relationships, how we're showing up in our life, and understanding how our mindset and our emotions help to create our results in our life. So it's really looking at our thought patterns and how we can better, or I guess, increase our awareness, process our emotions so that we're not overwhelmed by them and we're not just on autopilot, letting our brain take us wherever it may, and really then learning how to consciously create our thoughts and our feelings so that we are taking the action that we need to and creating the results that we want in our life. The third pillar is our relationship with ourselves, the most important relationship we will ever have. And we look at developing self-love, self-trust, self-worth, all of the things that will really build that solid foundation so that we're not looking for external approval, right? We're not affected by what someone else gives us or doesn't give us. We have a relationship with ourselves that is solid, and therefore we are able to provide ourselves with what we need. And then finally, the fourth pillar is we're future focused, and we're looking at who do we want to become? What do we want to create for our lives? What goals do we want to set? What do we look like, or what do our lives look like a year from now, 5 years from now? And really getting focused on where we want to go, what it looks like, and then starting to take steps to get there.
Oh, wow. That is very interesting. I love that. And do you do like group setting or more of a one-on-one program?
Right now, I'm only doing one-to-one. So I do all of my sessions over Zoom, 1 hour. And yeah, I mean, it's a great deal of support for the client at this point. I am interested in doing group, but I will probably start something later in the year before I take that on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where can my listeners find you?
I am at tristagurtin.com. So that's TRISTAGUERTIN.com.
Is there anything else that you would like my listeners to know?
I guess, one of the most important things that I share with my clients is that it's never too late. You're never too old. You're not doing it wrong, and there's nothing wrong with you. I see, especially as women, we tend to think that everybody else has it figured out, that maybe they're doing better, that they know better, that there's something wrong with us. And it's never the case. It's just not true. I hear it time and time again, and I just decided that it just can't be possible. We're not all doing it wrong. We're not all, flawed in some way. We're human. We're human. And no matter what you want to accomplish in your life, no matter what you want to go after, there's still plenty of time and you can do it. Believe in yourself, get the help and support that you need, but I promise you that it's never too late. You're not doing it wrong, and there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, I love that because we have the idea like we can't go back to school or
Mm,
we shouldn't start a new business or we just excuse me, sorry, my throat is bad today. That we shouldn't be doing the stuff because age or this or that, but it is, you're never too old, you're never too late to start anything, and yeah, and how we can do like to feel unstuck.
mm, right. Yes. And I mean, it's important that you start to consciously think about what you want to create in your life. A lot of times people don't spend the time deciding what it is they want and getting very detailed about what that looks like, and spending more time focused on our future instead of our past. We spend a lot of time looking back and letting what's happened in the past define what's possible for us in the future. But that's not the case. right? Just because you haven't done something before doesn't mean you can't do it in the future. So really, it's just, to get unstuck, it's important to spend time thinking about what it is you want to create, and don't limit yourself. I hear all the time about what's realistic, what's possible, and what they're capable of based on what they've done in the past. And those are just not true. Those are rules that we've constructed, in society and by other people, but they don't have to mean anything to us if we don't want to accept them and keep them for ourselves.
Yeah, that is so true. Excuse me.
Nope, you're still muted.
I
There you
did it. I'm back. I will have to edit that out. I have to.
go. No.
Okay, so how about if somebody's struggling with imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome is something that our brain creates in order to keep us safe. And essentially, our brain, right, we have the primitive part of our brain that works to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and be as efficient as possible. And when we have imposter syndrome, there is a part of our primitive brain that is looking for threats. It's looking for problems. It's looking to keep us safe. And if it likes to offer us problems, right, it feels like keeping us on high alert, right? So it's scanning and it's giving us all these reasons like, well, we may not be good enough, or they hired us and they made a mistake, or they're going to find me out that I'm not really that talented. I'm not really that good, right? And it's basically a protection mechanism, because the more our brain can keep us on alert, it feels like then, we'll be ready. We'll be aware. We'll be on the lookout, right? And sort of hyper stressed to, look for problems and try and address them, right? And so it's understanding that this is a protection mechanism of the brain. And we can use our prefrontal cortex, which is the rational part of our brain, the part of our brain that analyze, that can think about what we're thinking about, and which can plan ahead. And so one of the most useful ways I've found to overcome imposter syndrome is that when my brain is offering me that, oh, I'm not good enough to be here, right? They've hired me and they've made a mistake. What I like to do is ask, okay, but what else might be true? And to look specifically for maybe 3 pieces of evidence to the contrary. Like if my brain is saying, I'm not good enough, I shouldn't be here, I like to ask it for 3 pieces of evidence as to why I should be here. Like, why would I be qualified for this particular job? Why might they have hired me or, offered me this position? Mm-hmm. And so it's important to just refocus your brain. Know that it's normal for your brain to look for the negative and to look for problems. Nothing has gone wrong. And you don't have to believe it. Just because our brain is offering us a thought doesn't mean that it's true, doesn't mean that we have to believe it, and it doesn't mean that we have to follow that line of thinking. Most of the time, our brain is operating on autopilot. Autopilot means it's looking for things to keep us afraid because it thinks it's keeping us safe. So we need to consciously work on refocusing it. It's like having to be the adult in a relationship with a toddler, right? Our toddler is the primitive part of our brain. The adult is the prefrontal cortex. So we use the prefrontal cortex to manage that primitive part of our brain, knowing that nothing has gone wrong. This is just a part of having a human brain, but we need to manage it. We need to focus it on what we do want to focus on. Otherwise, it's just running amok, right? Offering us things to keep us afraid. That's all.
It really is. So, and in that note, like, how can we build for more self-confidence?
So self-confidence is something that comes from our thinking. And the thoughts that we create and think on purpose will generate that feeling of self-confidence. And I like to tell my clients that self-confidence will come from you knowing that you can handle any situation. You can figure things out, right? If you go into a new situation, like if you're going into a new job, you don't have to know exactly everything, right? There will always be things that you will need to figure out as a part of a new job, let's say. But know that whatever comes up, you can handle it. You can figure it out. You can problem solve. You have confidence in your ability to handle it. And you also have the ability and the willingness to feel any emotion. And know that you won't get hurt. You won't die. You'll survive, basically. Right? So you can experience disappointment. You can experience humiliation. You can experience frustration. And you will survive. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not necessarily pleasant, right? We know that. But if you can allow yourself that experience and allow yourself to move through it, right? And that means you're not trying to resist it. You're not trying to change it, right? You allow this vibration in your body. You know, you don't go and buffer with Netflix or a bag of chips or a glass of wine, but you just allow it to be there and know you're going to be okay on the other side. So what you want to do is get to that point where you know you can figure things out, and whatever happens, whatever emotion you experience, you can experience and you will be okay on the other side. And therefore, that self-confidence comes from knowing those two things and taking those risks, taking those challenges on and moving forward and allowing yourself and the ability to move through it no matter what. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you so much for you're very insightful, you know, when it comes to like ideas with your brain, because I know we spend so much time in our heads that like we have to reset whatever reprogramming you had in the past,
Right.
you know, with stuff that you won't like to feel, and anything in the future, so you can go after your dreams, you know, and have a very fulfilled life.
It's true. It's true. You know, we pick up a lot of our beliefs when we're children and adolescents, right? Our brain is not fully formed. It's not mature. It's not sophisticated as when we're mid-20s adults when it's fully formed, fully matured. And so we pick things up. Our brain at the time is doing the best that it can, but those beliefs and that thinking served us at that time, but it may not serve us today. So the important thing is gaining that awareness, looking at what beliefs we hold and whether they're serving us and whether we want to keep them. And if they're not serving us and we decide we don't want to keep them, then it's consciously choosing what beliefs do we want to create that will serve us and that will move us forward towards becoming who we want to become and creating the life that we do truly want. It takes work. It takes, it's not something that you're one and done. And I'm not saying that it's easy. It's work. It's learning a new skill. It takes practice, it takes effort, it takes repetition, but it's similar to learning any other new skill. So if you're learning a new language, if you're learning an instrument, if you're wanting to learn a new sport, same sort of thing. You have to consciously put in the time and effort, but it is possible and you will become better at it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
My
I
pleasure.
really had a good time with this conversation.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Now, you can catch my podcast in all major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and I will have her information in the description of this episode. So if you would like to work with her, and oh yeah, don't forget my YouTube channel. Hope you have a blessed day.